Evergrande's collapse left behind a mountain of unfinished messes. Evergrande has ruined me. I truly cannot keep living like this. Look, the handover has already been delayed for 3 years. Since the homes still cannot be delivered, people have simply moved in and started living here. August 5, 2026. This is the largest tourism city in Henan that Evergrande's boss Xu poured roughly 100 billion yuan into building. It was once placed under enormous expectations, but no one could have imagined that, even after the buildings had topped out, the project could still be left unfinished. Look at these perfectly good buildings. Now all that is left is steel reinforcement and concrete. This is the lifetime hard work and savings of ordinary people. The homes cannot be lived in, but the mortgages still have to be paid every single month. Homes bought after several generations emptied their wallets have been left unfinished, tearing countless families apart. Fujian was sentenced to life imprisonment. He went to prison. But what happens to the mess he left behind? What happens to these 1.62 million unfinished homes? What happens to the ordinary people who bought these 1.62 million unfinished homes? Right now, we have to spend 5,000 or 6,000 yuan every month on the mortgage. For working-class people like us, we can only earn a little over 4,000 yuan a month. If this unfinished building is going to remain unfinished forever, then for me personally, I truly do not have the courage to keep living. Total debt exceeded 2.4 trillion yuan. 2.4 trillion yuan! Even if Xu Jiayin's underwear were confiscated, he still could not fill that hole. In the end, this hole of more than 2 trillion yuan still has to be filled by ordinary people like us. It is equivalent to the entire population carrying the debt. Xu Jiayin was sentenced to life imprisonment. But what about the people who bought Evergrande's unfinished homes? Can even 1 cent be taken off their mortgages? I am asking you. They say Xu is already 68 years old. In another 2 years, he could apply for medical parole. In total, he may only spend a few years inside. With his wealth, who knows how many hundreds of millions he still has overseas. For him, it was worth it. His whole life was worth it. The people to pity are the ordinary people trapped in these unfinished projects. In the end, everything gets spread onto ordinary people like us. This is Evergrande's tallest unfinished development in China. No one expected that dozens of super high-rise buildings would run into a crisis before they even had time to top out. More than 5,000 homeowners who already paid were left devastated, and the homes still have not been handed over. Today, weeds grow everywhere across the entire development, and the site is full of standing water. It has even become a paradise in the eyes of fishing enthusiasts. This is what an era has come to mean. The carnival of real estate has finally come to an end. An Evergrande homeowner in Wuhan really came here. I spent almost 2 million yuan, and this is what I got? Did I buy a fully finished apartment, or did I buy a dangerous building? Is this enough for them to hand the home over to me? Here is the Hongda Shidai New City developed by Boss Xu. This is one of the largest unfinished developments in Wuhan. It was once a major residential project in Wuhan. With the subway, 2 universities, and the strength of the Evergrande brand behind it, home prices at their peak reached more than 9,000 yuan per square meter. It has now been shut down for years. The reinforced concrete is covered in rust stains, and the construction site is full of foul-smelling drainage ditches. Many people are still asking whether Evergrande's unfinished developments can still be saved, how the country will ultimately resolve them, and whether ordinary homebuyers will eventually be able to receive their homes. This is Zhangjiakou's well-known unfinished development, Evergrande Xi'an. The project is located in Dongxinzhuang, Zhangjiakou, and it went on sale in May 2021. Many people gambled a lifetime of hard-earned money on it, but in the end, construction did not even begin. Now the construction site is covered in weeds. Besides Evergrande Xi'an, Zhangjiakou also has many other unfinished developments. No explanation has been given to people, and the projects have simply remained unfinished like this. Let me tell you a very disgusting truth that even industry insiders do not dare to say. Other than the homebuyers, nobody wants to finish building these stalled projects. Why do all these unfinished developments only become unfinished after the buildings have topped out? Because there is a group of parasites involved. They do not want the unfinished projects to be completed at all, because only when the homes are left unfinished can they make several times or even dozens of times the profit. That is much easier than working hard to properly develop a real estate project. There is probably no other real estate developer in China that dared to operate the way Evergrande did. They expanded recklessly. After Evergrande blew up, more than 2,000 projects across the country were halted at the same time, leaving problems in more than 280 cities. The most outrageous example is back in our home province of Henan, in Xinjiang, Henan, Evergrande Yufu Tianxia. The developer did an excellent job on appearances. They built an imposing front gate and made the sales model look like an imperial palace. All the homes were sold. Guess what happened next? Apart from that gate, they did not build a single brick or tile inside. Did the homeowners who bought these homes also empty 6 family wallets? In exchange, all they got was, wait a little longer. Wait a little longer. Today, that lone gate is still standing there by itself, like a tombstone erected for those 1.62 million unfinished homes. This is the beautiful countryside project that Evergrande's Fujian spent 3 billion yuan building in his hometown in Henan when he returned home in glory. The site alone covers 1,150 mu. More than 3,000 Chinese-style courtyard homes were planned, together with schools, hospitals, and commercial facilities. At the time, it was promoted as a model project for rural revitalization. Unfortunately, after only 1 year of construction, Evergrande ran into crisis. Today, one unfinished building after another has been abandoned here, with no one maintaining them. It is painful just to look at them. My friends, in 2019, I bought a home in Evergrande's Kunming Yangling Main V City project. It cost almost 1 million yuan. I paid a down payment of more than 200,000 yuan and borrowed more than 700,000 yuan. The key problem is that it is still an heir home that exists only on paper. I cannot get the home, and I cannot sell it either. Now Boss Shu has been sent inside. What am I supposed to say about my situation? Boss Shu, you really cannot treat people this way. Chinese people should not cheat other Chinese people. Who was it who once shouted that everything I and Evergrande have was given by the country, given by the party, and given by society? When you drink water, remember its source. We must repay society, shoulder social responsibility, and help the people who need help. I bought the home when the project opened on September 15, 2019. There were several thousand people on the opening day. The homes were being sold very quickly, and at the time I was very happy. I had also earned some money from working that year. I borrowed more than 200,000 yuan from friends and relatives, and scraped together more than 500,000 yuan in total. Actually, when we came to buy the home, my girlfriend came with me too. Now I cannot receive the home, and that girlfriend is gone too. This is Chongqing's most luxurious unfinished development, Evergrande Yangxi. Back then it was promoted as a low-density luxury development with river views, and they dared to sell it for more than 20,000 yuan per square meter, directly 2 or 3 times more expensive than surrounding developments. But no one expected that Evergrande would collapse when the project was only halfway built. Today, construction here has completely stopped. All that remains is an abandoned construction site. It is truly heartbreaking. Buying into this project ruined people. The source transcript is unclear on the short phrase that follows this sentence. This is Guiyang's largest unfinished ghost city, the Evergrande Cultural Tourism Center. It covers 8,000 mu, with investment of more than 100 billion yuan. Today, the enormous sales center is completely empty, and the entire project is in a state of suspended construction. Homeowners suffered devastating losses. After it was launched in 2018, sales continued strongly. 10,000 people scrambled to buy homes, creating what was described as a global sales miracle for a cultural tourism project. There are 1.62 million Evergrande homeowners who emptied their family savings and took on 30-year mortgages. Not a single cent is taken off their mortgages. The payments are deducted month after month. Evergrande's total debt was 2.44 trillion yuan, including more than 600 billion yuan in contractual liabilities. That was the home purchase money prepaid by 1.62 million homeowners. They did not get the homes, but the money was gone. Do you know which unfinished project in Xi'an is the most notorious? It became famous precisely for being unfinished. The Evergrande Cultural Tourism City. This project trapped far too many ordinary people. In 2019, a friend of mine used up the savings of 3 generations and spent 1.5 million yuan to buy a home in Evergrande Cultural Tourism City. When the land for this project was acquired, the land cost was less than 1,000 yuan per square meter. Later, the homes were sold for 12,000 yuan per square meter, and the project was still left unfinished. Even capitalists would cry hearing that. Because this development was aimed at people buying homes for genuine living needs, the people who were hurt were hard-working, ordinary families. More than 20,000 households bought homes here. Now they can only rent homes while continuing to pay their mortgages. Rent plus mortgage payments have made families that were already not wealthy even worse off. Prospective homeowners organized activities many times and went to the developer to demand an explanation, but they never got a result. The school that the developer had promised to build and the subway that was supposed to come here have both disappeared without a trace. When we went there today, it was still basically a bare shell home. There was no water and no electricity. The electrical wiring had not even been installed. All the electrical boxes were empty. They were fake. There was not even a single electrical wire inside. After all these years, almost nothing has changed. This is the biggest regret Evergrande left behind in Fujian. The site covers 560 mu. The original land acquisition price was nearly 18,900 yuan per square meter. To support the development of this enormous project, the local area planned 3 subway stations and 1 high-speed rail station. The supporting resources were exceptionally favorable. The original plan was to build a large integrated complex combining culture and tourism, leisure, commerce, and residential housing. Who could have expected that funding problems would force construction to stop halfway through? Looking at the site today, weeds have taken over the construction area, and this enormous project has simply been left sitting there. Unfinished buildings are a symbol of this era, and they are also a source of pain for many people, including me, one of the builders who bled and sweated on these projects. This stretch of unfinished buildings was rush-built in 2019, when I was working as an engineering department manager at Evergrande. The company's general manager forced me to sign a military-style pledge in the meeting room at Evergrande Center. He even made me hold up the pledge and take a photograph, almost like one of those humiliating naked loan guarantee photos. Given the actual situation at the time, the task was completely impossible to accomplish. Under the table, I secretly crumpled the pledge until it was a mess. I was furious. Looking at these unfinished buildings feels like looking at myself back then. A future that once seemed so promising suddenly became unfinished. Across the country, tens of millions of people in the construction industry are living unfinished lives just like me. Many creditors of real estate companies may also be living unfinished lives just like me. Who is going to save us? Recently, news that Xu Jiayin had appeared in court for trial flooded the entire internet. Let us see what this blogger had to say. Do you think arresting Xu Jiayin can solve the problem? Banks should bear full responsibility for unfinished buildings. Once a home is left unfinished, the bank should return all of the home buyer's purchase money and should also compensate the buyer with breach of contract compensation equal to no less than 10% of the home's price. The buyer bears no responsibility at all. But right now, all the losses are being borne by the home buyers. Is that reasonable? How many kind, ordinary families have been destroyed by unfinished buildings? Why should weak and helpless people bear all the responsibility? This should be the largest unfinished development in the country, right? I believe many of you have probably seen this video online recently. When Zhuge Liang staged the empty fort strategy, he used an entire city. Mr. Xu needed only one gate to stage an empty fort strategy. Recently, many people online have been saying that behind this Evergrande gate there is nothing but weeds. After the homes were sold, only one gate was built. More than 10 million yuan was spent on that gate, and after it was finished, the entire tract of land was abandoned. You cannot even find this location on many navigation maps. Do not judge it by how it looks today. If I show you the original rendering, you will understand why more than 2,000 families spent nearly 1 billion yuan paying for it. This was the rendering at the time. Anyone who saw it would have been dazzled. Now we have come to the project site in person. There are only 3 things you can actually see. First, they really did spend nearly 10 million yuan building a front gate. The gate originally displayed the words Evergrande Yuhu Tianxia, but now you can clearly see that those 6 Chinese characters have been removed. The middle area was supposed to be the artificial lake. Today there is no lake to be seen, only a little rainwater inside. If you continue walking farther back from here and pass through this corridor, you reach the location where the sales center was built. This was originally the Evergrande Yuhu Tianxia sales center, but in the end, everything was abandoned. Pre-sales began around 2019 and 2020. According to what people said at the time, the community was supposed to be a 1,000-mu lakeside residential development. It was also promoted as a heartfelt project by Mr. Xu to give back to his home province of Henan. There were also many other second-hand homes and other projects in the surrounding area. At the time, the launch price here was 6,000 to 7,000 yuan per square meter, more than 2,000 yuan cheaper than competing projects nearby. So this project was actually very popular at the time. In the end, more than 2,000 units were reportedly subscribed for, and sales exceeded 1 billion yuan. Many people had already started making monthly mortgage payments, and all their down payments had already been handed over. In the end, they received absolutely nothing. Everything we can see around us now is cornfields, along with a pavilion, all of it abandoned. Forget seeing residential buildings. Inside, you cannot even see a foundation, and you cannot even see a basement level. More than 2,000 families ultimately ended up with no homes, while their mortgages continued to be paid as normal. The poor homeowners spent a lifetime of savings and continued paying expensive mortgages every month, yet in the end, they never even saw the shadow of a home. It really turned out just like Boss Xu's original advertising. 360-degree panoramic lighting with no blind spots. And what happened in the end? The developer's funding chain broke. Either the developer's boss ran away or became a deadbeat debtor. The company entered bankruptcy and liquidation, and the entire housing development was completely wasted. You are just an ordinary person. If you go to court and sue, you may not even be able to find the defendant. In the end, the people who sold the land bear no responsibility, the people who issued the loans bear no responsibility, and the people who built the homes bear no responsibility. Only the ordinary families who emptied 2 generations of savings and 6 family wallets are left carrying all of it. Even if your home is gone and your down payment is gone, do you still have to repay the bank loan? Not a single cent will be reduced. Have you seen news reports about unfinished buildings like these? Many people took out loans to buy homes, only for the homes to be left unfinished while they still had to keep paying the monthly mortgage. Then they were laid off and could no longer make the payments. In the end, they lost the down payment and lost the home as well. Life in the world today is truly difficult. The role of the Chinese Communist Party government behind the unfinished developments created by Xu Jiayin has also drawn attention. For decades, the CCP pushed large-scale infrastructure construction and urbanization in pursuit of grand achievements, turning the entire country into a blazing construction site. During those decades, China's real estate industry surged forward. After land was brought under state ownership, the CCP relied heavily on land-based public finance across the country. In the end, it all left behind a huge mess. Unfinished buildings spread across the country. The source argues that the root cause was the Chinese Communist Party government's pre-sale policy. Analysts cited in the source say the biggest victims are still ordinary people. Their money is basically gone, with little chance of return, while the government ultimately still benefits because the taxes have already been collected and the land transfer fees have already been collected. Looking back at the entire story, what is most painful is not only the collapse of a giant real estate conglomerate, but also the fate of millions of families trapped behind unfinished construction projects. According to the figures mentioned in the video, Evergrande once had total liabilities of approximately 2.44 trillion yuan, including more than 600 billion yuan in contractual liabilities related to money that homebuyers had already paid in advance. Around 1.62 million homes were mentioned as unfinished or undelivered, while more than 2,000 projects across over 280 cities were said to have been affected after Evergrande's crisis. But behind those enormous numbers are very small and very real human stories. Some people used the savings of 2 or even 3 generations to buy a home. Some had to borrow money from relatives just to make the down payment. Some families are now paying rent for the place where they currently live, while continuing to repay the mortgage on a home they still have not received. For them, an unfinished project is not simply a few abandoned concrete structures. It can represent decades of hard work, plans for marriage, raising children, caring for elderly parents, and the hope of finally having a stable home of their own. The end of China's era of rapid real estate growth therefore raises a much larger question. When a development model collapses, who is ultimately left to bear the consequences? The developers, the banks, local governments, or ordinary people who placed almost all of their family wealth into a single home? If you have watched this far, please share your thoughts in the comments. In your opinion, what needs to change so that homebuyers are no longer the ones forced to bear most of the losses when a real estate project collapses? Thank you to everyone who stayed with us until the very end of this video. Your attention, comments, and shares are a tremendous source of support for us as we continue exploring the stories behind the economic and social changes taking place across China. We look forward to seeing you again in the next video.